This is Chris report, and he assured me that since I'm down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Hey folks, welcome back to the program. It's the Braai Brus. I don't think we've done this since I was last in South Africa. In fact, Kibika Park might be the last time we did this. It's Byron Shepherd over there on that side of the screen. This is Chris in central Pennsylvania. Byron, have we done this since Kibika Park? I don't recall.
Nope.
That's what I
last
thought.
time I saw you was in my pub in Kibika Park.
Yeah.
Since then,
That pub, which, by the way, it's gotten a lot of renovation. If you happen to be in the area, folks, swing by, get yourself a little top-off drink. It was nice. But do bring a 4x4. The parking lot is very reminiscent of ANC infrastructure.
Yeah. And you want to know the worst part about it? It's actually a DA ward.
Well, color me surprised. Not at all. Hey, listen, you guys on Morning Shot went out to interview Gaten McKenzie some time ago, and I think you were like the first and only ones he actually gave an exclusive interview to at the time. He did a few after that. But you tried to be objective and expose different angles of Gaten. Of course, you got what he wanted you to see. But nonetheless, you did share with people, and I think that was newsworthy. Listen, a lot of people up in arms right now. They're angry that he's releasing a list of those who got money from the government during the lockdown. By the way, thank you, Marauder, for 34 months of membership. He says, thanks to me for 34 months, keep me in the loop. Well, it's my pleasure. But yeah, so before you respond, my take on this very quickly, I'm thrilled. I love transparency in government activity. It's good to see the sports, arts, and culture minister, Gaten McKenzie, one of the only two members of parliament in the cabinet that I've actually seen do something. The other is Dean McPherson. These are the only two actually doing anything since they've been appointed that we can see publicly. He stopped Mama Joy and all that frivolous expenditure of state funds. He's telling people who got money, and some of them are very well connected. But here's another aspect of it too, Byron, is that there are people on the list who purportedly were given money who never got money. So someone put them on the list and someone got that money? Anyway, so have you been following this? The story's been breaking last night and today.
Yep. So obviously, one of the people that we know, Kifness, is actually on the list. And the Kifness apparently claimed during lockdown that because he was a whitey, he was discriminated against and didn't actually get any money. And then it subsequently turned out that he said in 2020 that apparently the money had come through, but he gave it all to his band members and he took nothing because he didn't want them to be affected by the lockdown. Something like that. But obviously, a lot of people are coming out and saying, well, in the Kifness's case, they're saying, well, this shows you he's a beneficiary of ANC policy and something. I understand why Gaten's done it. And, to a large degree, the reason he's done it is it was meant to show you that the beneficiaries of the lockdown or the people who got given any form of money from the lockdown weren't just limited to certain black artists, which was obviously the allegations. So yeah, I get why he's done it, but obviously there's another side of it as well, which is, and I'm not sure Gaten's really thought about this, and that's relating to Poppy. He's directly allowing individuals to see what money was attributable to certain individuals. I'm not sure that that's allowed underneath data protection. You might say it's transparency. But I think that some people would argue that it's the right to be forgotten and the right to remain anonymous. And obviously Gaten's robbed them of that by releasing the record to the public. So there's two sides of it. So you can see why people are moaning. I'm a bit like you. I like everything to be transparent. I like the government to come out there and say who gave what. I'm very happy to tell you the government never gave me nothing apart from a tax bill. So I'm definitely not a beneficiary of ANC policy. So no, thank you, ANC. But yeah, that's the scoop.
Sorry, the YouTube, or not YouTube, Zoom has changed their interface, and I'm just adjusting to it. It's brand new this morning, and it's not the way it has been. So, I'm agree with you, but I'm not sure. The Poppy Act seems to be something that's selectively applied in South Africa when people's
that's
feelings.
Data protection, even in the UK, mate. Like even in Europe, it's selectively applied. It applies when they want it to apply.
Exactly right. That's what I'm getting at now. Whereas here, you can really get in a lot of trouble for that sort of release of information if you provide personally identifying information. Now, releasing the fact that someone got money from the government, that's not something that's covered by protection here. But look, I mean, I think we are in agreement. You said it. The issue here is what's wrong with people knowing who got it? I mean, we see people who are incredibly rich who got money. And it wasn't a lot of money. I mean, that's, why
20,000 rand, apparently.
Well, 75,000 was 75,000 rand was the max. I mean, that's nothing. That's not even $5,000. It's kind of like the Tourism Relief Fund, which was discriminatory and racist, but the amount of money wasn't going to help anybody except someone selling wood carvings on the side of the road. And that's the only people who would have benefited from that small amount of money. No, it's but I mean, Gaten is shaking things up, whether it's his intent or not. It seems to be his intent. The whole Mama Joy thing. Boy, Ronaldo took a lot of flack for exposing Mama Joy and developed a lot of enemies who brought their fangs out and have gone after him now. But Gaten has ended Mama Joy, or is ending Mama Joy, and there's no backlash.
Well, is he? Is he though?
Oh, is he? I don't know.
He hasn't actually. The thing is, he hasn't actually listed her by name. So I mean, I actually spoke to Ramon about this, and I'm like, there's two sides to this, right? Ignore Ronaldo for a second because Ronaldo really disliked her. And he's had a personal Twitter campaign against her for some time. And whenever she got anything, vaguely positive, she literally would go to Twitter and say, Ronaldo host, look, this is, people love me, they don't love you. So there was a personal vendetta between him and her. However, Gaten originally, when he first took office, he did actually say he wanted to promote the superfans. And he actually mentioned Mama Joy as one of the individuals who people actually liked. So she was deliberately named, and Gaten said, he wanted to promote the whole kind of brand of South Africa, and that these super fans, if you will, alleviated the brand. Obviously, now he's come out and said, no, we don't want to have all these things, and we're going to can them all. But he hasn't actually specifically said her. So she is now saying, and she has said, that she will continue doing her superfan thing until she is named specifically as one of the people being fired. She hasn't been named as being one of the individuals that have been fired. So has she actually been fired? Don't know. And typical fashion, the news is contradictory at best.
Yeah, no, we'll see if it actually ends. I mean, he actually has to follow through, as you say. But this is ridiculous. I don't get in a country where children are starving to death because incompetent official Nelson Mandela Bay can't bother to distribute 63 million rand worth of money that's there to help feed indigent children.
Gets returned to national government quite a bit,
right?
Especially in Nelson Mandela Bay.
That's what I'm talking about. You've got that going on, and then we've got frivolous expenditures like this, and you can't defend this. I mean, you've got thousands of Springbok fans and Protea fans who travel the world to go to these games and be seen, and they appear on television. They get interviewed by foreign press. Why give someone a job to do that? That's ridiculous. I've never been a fan of this, and it has nothing to do with Mama Joy. It has to do with just the whole corrupt aspect of it. That shouldn't be a job for someone. Now, if she is employed by the Department of Tourism and she has a formal job and has applied and competed for that job, and that's part of the job, different story. But just giving money to people.
But you and I both know that that's not what's happened.
Of course, that's not what's happened. That's the whole point here. And this is corruption beyond belief. So we'll see if Gaten has success in that. But revealing these names, I think, is interesting. I didn't realize the Kifness was on there. Listen, I could never get an interview with them anyway. They just don't like me for whatever reason from the very get-go. So I've never been able to get him. I asked him before he even knew what my channel was, and he just blew me off. They were very, very, very dismissive. So, good. I'm glad they get exposed. I hope they get attention.
Yeah, so the Kifness is an interesting one because obviously he's made his name, I suppose, a little bit, especially during the lockdown, at challenging the government and specifically around transparency between, the government's treatment of black artists versus white artists. So when you actually see something like this, it doesn't look good. I don't know, Chris, do you know how to share screens? Because usually when
I did, but let's see if it
time we share news. So I just sent you a news article. You can load it for the audience to see.
Oh, would you send it me WhatsApp or what? Okay, I'll just do that. Yeah. I was trying to find the share screen because
sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing Chris into the 21st century.
Just don't be a smart ass here. I mean, they changed the software today, so give me that crap. Allow participants to share notes, share whiteboards. It doesn't have share screen. Oh, there's share screen. Got it. Okay. All right. So share screen's up. Should be able to do it now.
Oh. Okay. So let's have a look.
So Byron's trying to find his way into the 21st century.
If you're one. No, because you see, I sent it to you, and now you're putting it back on me. See how this works? It's like, yes. People are going to think, what type of professional crowd is this? So yeah, let's hope that.
Did you send it to me in Zoom or in WhatsApp? Oh, you sent it to me in WhatsApp. Okay, I'll just pull it up over there. Hang on.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, hang on. I'll just pull it up over there. Oh, Kifnis speaks out. Oh, that's about receiving money. Okay, I'll bring it up real quick here, and you've got on your screen, but so the audience.
So it won't allow me to show it unless I kill my setting and reboot the bloody thing. So
yeah, just don't worry about it. So I've got it on the screen now.
There you go. So you can see Times reported it today. And if you scroll down, you'll see loads of people riffing on the Kifnis because, in typical fashion, he claimed that he wasn't really given any beneficiaries. And there you see, well, it turns out that basically what he was. So,
well, this is an interesting story. So you broke this to me. I didn't even see this in the Times today. Yeah. This is wow. Going to be some blowback on that. Listen, I didn't realize that he'd actually spent that much time talking about black versus white artists during lockdown. All I saw coming out of the Kifnis was stupid cat videos, and I kind of lost interest with the plethora of cat videos. They got kind of annoying.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't do it overtly, right? So what he's famous for doing is just basically going on there and doing you remember the national anthem. You changed the words to the national anthem, and then made fun of the ANC, and quite a lot of it was basically around how come I don't get assistance? Is it because I was white? That kind of thing.
But he did get assistance
anyway. But he did, and that's why it's been newsworthy, because he's like, no, I didn't get nothing. It's like, your name's on the list, bud.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, as a taxpayer in this country, against my will, I received $300, which the Treasury Department would not accept back. I tried to send it back to them, but I received $300 from the government during lockdown. Didn't ask for it. All taxpayers got it. Married couples got $600. So that's, so there you go. I did get something that I didn't ask for, so I won't hide that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you a question now. So what's your take on the government of national unity? Obviously, when we met in PE and we had a little bit of a chat, I suppose we were talking about what the potentials could be, but now we know what they are. So, what's your view on the government's national disunity?
Disunity. Well, early days. I think we're early days, and I don't expect a lot out of it. As I said, I've only seen two ministers that have actually done things that we've publicly been able to pay attention to for the most part, and that's, of course, Dean McPherson, who unveiled some cyber corruption that's going on, and now Gaten McKenzie's making a splash too. Beyond that, I haven't heard much. Mostly what I've seen is the media cherry picking things. For instance, there was a story, I think it was in the Daily Maverick, and I'm going to do a video. I did a video on that about their angst over John Steenhuisen being the agricultural minister, and that's not really the story. So, I mean, the government of national unity, I don't expect to see a whole lot of change. It just be this continual slow decline in South Africa. There will be some cleanup in some of these ministries, particularly the ones that they have DA ministers, and And that's not because they're great, although I think the choices for the DA ministries are mostly pretty good, but it's because they're just not corrupt like the ANC. So that's an improvement at a minimum. But I don't expect to see much. As far as it lasting, I haven't heard anybody talking or taking bets. I haven't been to Hollywood Bets and see what the storyline is on how long it's going to last, but I don't know. This government will only last as long as well, let me change this. So what is interesting about all of this is the ANC is the winner, which is what I said. The ANC wins. Ramaphosa lost 4 million votes. He lost 17% of the vote and had a disastrous performance, and he's still the president. And Paul Mashatile is still the deputy president. The ANC controls the entire security cluster, and they control all the most important economic aspects. And this is a story that no one else is talking about, that I've talked about several times. The presidency has become imperial and more powerful. The Public Enterprise Ministry now falls under the president. The intelligence services fall under the president. He's accumulating power, and it's not healthy. It's not a good thing. So I think the ANC is getting a free pass because Dean McPherson's talking about the cybercrime, and nobody's talking about how it happened on the ANC's watch, how the ANC is responsible for it. You see the Twitter post, you see the news articles about McPherson's exposing corruption, but there's no mention of how this has been going on under the ANC and how they should be brought to account. And the same with Gaten McKenzie. I saw a couple Twitter feeds, official feeds, saying that Gaten McKenzie's exposed crime or corruption in his ministry, implying that he's sort of responsible for it. No, he's not. This is previously. So I think that this is the best of all outcomes for the ANC at the moment, and they're getting a free pass, and they're not going to rock the boat, in my view, unless they have to.
Yeah, but this was the inevitable conclusion of everything that's going on. It was inevitable that the ANC would try to piggyback off the DA and basically allow the DA to clean up their act. Ramon and I both predicted that to be the case. I suppose what is becoming interesting, though, is also the reception that the DA guys are actually getting, because by and large, what we are seeing, certainly from the individuals that we talk to, when they go into certain places in government, quite often the ministries are very happy to see them. We didn't expect that, I must say. We thought that when specifically people like Dean McPherson and the relevant sort, any of the white cabinet members. I mean, the black cabinet members, you kind of understand, right? Maybe they'll go in and there's a degree of, you look like me, therefore everything will be fine. But the white cabinet ministers specifically, when they've gone into certain areas, or even Gaten, I mean, Gaten's not exactly black. I mean, he's a colored individual.
He's colored, yeah.
So when they go into these locations, you're expecting them almost to have a degree of hostility to them. Like, don't come here with your white whatever, something, the white bussy and whatever else. But that's not what they're reporting actually having got. They're all saying that a lot of the departments are sick and tired of just babysitting ministers, because that's what they've actually been doing, and trying to explain everything to ministers and, like baby language. And now that there's somebody there who actually wants to do the work, they're actually feeling very positive about it. And again, that I didn't expect. I didn't expect any of the ministries to embrace any of the DA guys. Now, I don't know if you've also seen the clip that's doing the rounds of Ian Cameron. He got elected to the parliamentary police portfolio. That was today or yesterday. And him and Nglozi, the water boy of the EFF, actually had a very cordial conversation. It was very polite, very down to earth, and he's like, look, you're the chair, that's cool, I'm okay with that. We all as a committee need to hold the executive to account. We need to have good time, we need to do our job properly, and if doing that will improve crime in South Africa. And Ian Cameron was like, yeah. Then he had a very nice conversation with the Minister of Police. There was no hostilities, no shouting, no shut-ups. It was all very cordial. And if you do anything with South African politics, it's unusual to see such a high degree of cordialness in our politics. We usually used to screaming at each other, calling each other, sellouts and whatever else. So it looks to a degree, maybe early to say, right? But it looks to a degree like almost our politics is maturing. And that's nice to see.
Well, I wouldn't go that far to say politics is maturing. I see what you're getting at. But unfortunately, I don't have that level of access. I haven't talked to anybody in the bureaucracy. But actually, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked because we know the behavior of many of these ministers. They're simply fat cats sitting there suckling on the teat, accomplishing nothing. And genuine people in the bureaucracy who really want to accomplish something and work are probably like, oh my gosh, a leader. What a nice change of pace. And that sounds like what you're describing here. So I'm not surprised. Ian Cameron was elected chair of that body, the Public Services Commission, or what is for the policing forum. So he's chairman of it, and the effort to smear him seems to have just died off. So that's good news as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. But let's look at some more interesting politics and say, so what's going on in the land of the US of shithole? Are you guys still being led by a dementia patient?
No, get it correct. None of your fake news. He has Parkinson's. Sorry, it's not funny. It's sad.
Does he know that? Just
no, of course he doesn't know that. That's the problem.
That's because he has dementia, right? And he forgot.
Listen, it's okay. Everything's under control. The nuclear football is under control. President Jill Biden has everything under control. Yeah, no, the chorus of leftists who now, so by the way, Ben Shapiro, who a lot of people seem to like to hate on, Ben Shapiro spoke in Congress yesterday, and it's a 5-minute clip. I'm going to play it. It's not right now, but it's unbelievably spot on.
I watched the entire thing.
Okay, good.
The guy says the guy that's like proper retarded turns to Ben and he says, "So, why do you hate gays?" And he says, "I don't hate gays." He's like, "Well, you think it's a sin?" He's like, "Yes, I'm an Orthodox Jew."
Hello.
The guy's like, "But you hate them, right?" He's like, "No, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and every major religion in the world all has the same view of them." You're like, Ben played that guy so fantastically, and then the guy basically goes on to ask Ben loads of questions. Ben's like, "Why am I on trial?" Like, the whole point of me being here is to moan that you guys are censoring right wingers online, and now you're basically trying to put me under trial, even though you're an idiot.
So I'm going to guess, without having seen that response, it was Hank Johnson from Georgia, most likely. Hank is the idiot that thinks that when we relocated Marines from Okinawa to Guam, that he actually, if you ever saw this video, he said, "I'm concerned that all these Marines and their family will put so much weight that the island will tip and capsize." Did you ever see that? It's too funny.
So one of your viewers says that Ben Shapiro was sharp, but Ben's very quick on his rhetoric. He's a very good communicator. Verbally, he's a very good communicator. I must say, since the whole Israel Palestine thing, I think Ben's gone a little bit off the rails. I think he's a little bit too pro-Israel. I know he's a Jew. He has to be, very pro-Israel and all the rest of it. But he's kind of pushed it to the other end of the extremes. And unfortunately, the biggest problem that Ben now has is that he's not taking criticism very well. And his way of dealing with criticism on his side is
to attack,
to do what the left do, and silence the people that want to criticize him. And that to a degree takes away some of the legitimacy of Ben Shapiro, because he's doing exactly what he purports to hate.
Well, that's a fair statement. He does appear to be John Steenhuisen-like in his thin skin, that's for sure, about criticism. I'll give him that. Carl Brown said that it was Eric Swalwell that was the person that was responding to him. So Swalwell, of course, is famous for Fang Fang, sleeping at Chinese communist spies, member of Congress, revealing classified information, yet still walks the streets of America. Boy, the world is upside down. It's absolutely upside down. Yes, and Poopy Pants is still our president. That's at least that's the story this morning. But it's hilarious to see all the leftists who have lied about Biden and propped him up and attacked legitimate commentators who simply pointed out, look, this guy fell up the stairs. The guy can't string two sentences together. You're just bigots. You're just hateful homophobes. You're just racist. Joe Biden is whiter than I am. Racist against white people? I don't think so. No, and so now, after their lies, the media lying for the past several years, now suddenly they're all turning on Biden. And if it wasn't so sad, it would be hilarious. And I suppose if you're not an American, it's a pretty funny thing to watch. But I think it's just it's a human tragedy of epic proportions, and these people deserve to lose everything. They deserve to happen to them what happened to the Tories, courtesy of the Reform Party, to be eviscerated and fall out of government completely. But that's not going to happen. But that's what they deserve in November. If all things being equal, this would be an electoral landslide for Donald Trump. But we'll see what happens in November.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Donald Trump. But that being said, Donald Trump, as you and I both know, I'm a massive fan. I like Donald. It always gets us a lot of hate, and the down counter on your likes and downs is just going to go because we said Donald Trump.
Interaction is interaction. I don't care.
But at the end of the day, I must say that debate he had with Joe Biden, I didn't think any of them really came across as positive. I thought even Donald Trump didn't come across in a very good light. He just came across as petty. Joe Biden came across as like a dementia patient. And you had to kind of look at these two and just think, like, is this seriously the best we got? It's not ideal.
No. This was not a good performance by Trump. That's a fact. Can't deny that 100%. In fact, I turned on the debate because I just got back from South Africa, and I fell asleep trying to watch it. It was that boring. I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, of course, because I'm 6 hours ahead still, because it's 6 hours. It's 8:00 in the morning in South Africa, so I'm waking up after my flight. And it was still on. They were rerunning the damn thing. And so I saw a point where Biden was like mumbles from Dick Tracy. And then then Trump said, ask him to respond. He goes, I don't know what he just said. He doesn't know what he said. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, and and all of that's fine. Like at one point in time, he says to Joe, I've done 2 cognitive tests and they say I'm fine. How many have you done, Joe? And he's like, I told him that I would race his race cars anytime, and I can have a better drive than him. I've got an 8 handicap, and I told him I would play him golf as long as he carries his own clubs. Will you carry your own clubs? And you're like,
this was in the debate. I didn't see this.
You're like, well, that answered the question of whether or not you were cognitive, and I think the answer is no. You're like, that wasn't the fucking question, dude. Keep to the script. Like, jeez.
Yeah. No, my big issue with Trump for the bit that I saw, which wasn't a whole lot of debate, was that he didn't answer questions. He was asked a question and he just went back to the last thing that was said. To be fair, he wasn't given an opportunity to rebut, but still he ate up all the time talking about that. So that's just kind of annoying. Not really a debate of such, more just like a sad, pathetic performance by 2 elderly gentlemen who should be playing checkers at a rest home. That's what I saw.
I read an article afterwards, and I actually want to relay the article, and I think it's really important. And the article basically makes a claim that politics in the year 2024 is being hijacked by a bunch of elderly gentlemen that can no longer recognize the news and recognize the world that they live in, because they still think it's the world of their youth, and it's no longer the world of their youth, and they refuse to hand over control to a younger generation that would just like to do something different with the world. And I think that's 100% true. You can see it in the United Kingdom. You can see it in South Africa. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa is like 74, man. Like, look at half his cabinet. Cele is in the 70s. Talon Bezuidenhout in the 70s. You got all these guys that are just old, and they refuse to let go. They're like, no, I'll just keep running. Like, dude, retirement time. You got it in the US. Joe Biden's 84. Trump is in his 81. 70s, man. Oh, who cares how old he is? He probably don't even remember. He probably don't even remember how old he is.
No, he doesn't know how old he is.
He thinks he's still 8.
He acts like he's 8.
So, like,
yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, but see, I appreciate
everywhere.
I appreciate the article, but at the same time, Sanna Marin was the Prime Minister of Finland. She was a disaster. Jacinda Ardern was the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She was a fascist disaster.
Gee, I wonder why. Because they're all getting controlled by some 70, 80-year-old at the WEF. Oh, wait. Well, who's that? Klaus Schwab. How old is he? Like, dude, fucking retire. Go enjoy your time with your kids. Like, even, Justin Trudeau, the little bit of a poster boy for, WEF, Klaus Schwab. Like, it's just old people everywhere. Like, Retire, guys.
Trudeau is not old. Jacinda Ardern is not old. Sanna Marin is not old. Macron is not old.
But they're all controlled, mate, by a bunch of old pricks.
Yeah, but that's a whole different story. They're just puppets. They're Manchurian candidates. That's a completely different narrative than old people running this stuff. So, and look, Putin is old too. He's in his 70s now. He's not exactly a young trooper.
This is another example of it, mate. He's another example of it.
But I mean, look at the youthful leaders we have in North Korea. No thanks.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Here's the issue I have with that. So, I mean, I have no problem with someone in their 70s or 80s who have cognitive ability and can lead. I got no problem with that. Nothing wrong with experience. My problem is with the structures we currently have. We have anti-democratic, anti-Republican forces at work. And I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about Republicanism, federalism. This is all over the world. And the world isn't a crapper. It's just unbelievable. I had a question yesterday to my audience. I said, so is liberty just ephemeral? Is freedom not really real? Are we all just in the Matrix? I mean, are we all just on the road to serfdom, to quote Francis Hayek? I mean, I don't own my home. Even if I pay my mortgage off, I'm still a debt slave to the state, because if I don't pay my outrageous property taxes and my escrow account on time, they'll confiscate my home. It doesn't matter if I pay the entire thing off, the hundreds of thousands of dollars over 20 or 30 years. They'll just take my home. So is liberty not real? I mean, I can't even own this land because someone can just take it from me, from the state. No, it's at some point you have to wonder, is liberty real? I mean,
I don't wonder nothing, mate. So I gotta ask you a simple question.
Sure.
What's your tax rate in the US?
What's my what?
Tax rate. PAYE. What's your tax rate? Percentage wise?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about from income? Sure. I pay 28% federal. I pay 3% state. Then I pay 18% for self-employment tax. And before I get a penny, I've paid 51% of my income to the government.
Okay, 51%.
That's just income. That doesn't go to consumption, property taxes, road use taxes.
100%, bud. 100%. So 49% of your income goes into your pocket, right?
Roughly, yeah, about half.
Just by the way, just for your own knowledge, you should move to South Africa. Our rate's lower. Anyway.
I'm aware of that.
Anyway, let's just think about that for 1 second. So over half your income goes to the government.
Yep.
What's your job title?
CEO.
I think you need to rename it, mate. You're a civil servant.
I don't work for the government.
The 51% of your cash goes to the government, mate. Sorry,
there you go.
You're a civil servant, bud.
There you go. You're
a fucking civil servant.
Exactly. That's a great point.
You're a civil servant.
Well done.
You're a civil servant.
No, I thought you were going to call me a CIA agent. I was trying to sort that out in my head.
No, you're just civil servant, bud. You're not a CEO. You're a civil servant. You're a civil servant for the state. By the way, just remind me, how much was the tax brackets that caused the Civil War?
There was no income tax for the Civil War.
No, but they tried to impose a tax on the Boston tea. How much was it?
Oh, that's the American Revolution. You're talking. It was 2% for tea or something like that.
Oh, great! And that caused the Civil War.
Caused a revolution. Caused a revolution.
Yeah, caused a revolution. It caused a massive revolution and a war with everybody, right? Yeah. That's fine. Like 51% is fine. 2%, riot.
Yep.
Freaking cut that king's head off.
Well, to be fair, we do call our riots parties. That was the Boston Tea Party.
That's true. No, you call them mostly peaceful protests.
Well, I'm standing here in front of a mostly peaceful protest.
I mean, lots of people died, but I mean, it was mostly peaceful.
Hey, pay no attention to those cars on fire behind me. The guy running down the street with a rifle shooting people. Oh dear God! Yeah, that's just going to last forever. I mean, that's what a fake news agency, CNN. So sad. In the Gulf War, they were actually still a legitimate news agency for the most part, and they actually brought people to the Gulf War. I didn't see it. I was in the Gulf War, so I wasn't watching CNN, but I did see it after the fact. Good Lord. Anyway. Yeah, no, you're right. We're slaves for the state. Here in America, they always talk about, when Freedom Day is, and a lot of people, it's when you've paid off your tax obligation. Now, when
July something or other.
Yeah, well, it keeps getting pushed further and further down the year. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Anyway, yeah, but no, I got you 100% on that. U.S. taxes are quite high. People are always like, we need to tax more like the Europeans. And people just don't realize that a lot of people in Europe simply work off the books or work illegally and don't report their income. This is a major problem in Germany.
They're telling you that you need to get taxed more like the Europeans, and yet you're already taxed more than the Europeans.
Exactly. That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. So, you know, you get people that have no idea what they're talking about, and it's comical. So the mayor of Chicago, I don't know if you saw this, the mayor of Chicago, after coming home from a trip, massive number of shootings, like 127 shooting incidents in Chicago over the weekend and something like that. And so he's being grilled by the press, and he goes on, he starts ranting about Nixon and trying to praise, you know, the racist bigot Johnson, who was the Democratic president who succeeded Kennedy after his assassination and created the Great Society, which wasn't meant really to help black folks. It was to help people in Appalachia, mostly white folks. And he seems to have forgotten that. So he praises Johnson and says he was mocked. And what do we get? We get Nixon. Well, Nixon did more for black Americans than any president except maybe Trump. The amount of money that the government spent with black-owned businesses, it rose exponentially. Nixon desegregated Southern schools. When he became president, 68% of Southern schools were still segregated racially. When he left office in resignation in 74, it was 8% of schools, and there were no wars, there was no shootings, there was no violence, no arrests, just the federal government intervened. And the list goes on and on. I'm not saying pro this or anti this, Nixon. I'm just stating the facts. And the left just is a hard time with facts. I mean, this is the Democrats are the ones. Their first president was Andrew Johnson, and he's the man who stole the land from the Cherokee, the Choctaw, and the Seminole Indians, put them on the Trail of Tears, stealing their historic land.
The Democrats don't care about facts.
No, they don't.
Because we must remind ourselves of something that Goebbels once said. A lie told repeatedly eventually becomes true.
Yeah.
You see, so the issue is that you're talking about facts in a true sense. What did Jesus say? What is truth?
So what's our option? To silence the liars? Is that really an option?
Well, no, it's just that you keep talking about the lie repeatedly and you make it true. I mean, there's 1,000,001 examples of it there in the US. But I'm not going to go on there and start naming things. It will just take forever. But there's how many other cases where, remember there was the case where the cop went into the house with that guy and the other girl, and they ended up shooting the guy. And the news said, oh, he was unarmed, and he said, don't shoot me. And then it turned out months later when they got the body cam footage that he was pointing a gun at them, telling them he's going to kill them. But does anybody remember that? No. You know, they all remember that he said, don't shoot. Now everybody's just going to repeat the slogan, don't shoot. It's like the Democrats love this kind of shit. And a lie repeated enough becomes true. That's all it has to do with me. Like, if you can keep saying the lie long enough that it becomes true enough to individuals that they feel the need to dilute their own political viewpoints in favor of the lie, job done, man. Like, who cares? Like, it's fun. It's all good.
Well, in conflict, we often say the first casualty of war is the truth, and that seems to be the way it is in politics.
Also a World War II phrase, and unfortunately, you know what we are seeing. I watched this. I watched a podcast the other day, and it's basically saying everything we are now seeing is a product of World War II. They're saying that the consequences of World War II have taken about 100 years to filter into the environment, and we are now seeing it. Well, everything that we are now seeing
is the same argument about the First World War. I mean, that's really which got us to where we're at today, the consequence of the First World War. So, yeah, no, it's there's a fair point there. I mean, we're living in an age as a consequence of these conflicts, which were a consequence of the political system that was in existence prior to that. It's just, some of the stuff was inevitable. The First World War was almost unstoppable. It was like a boulder coming down a hill. It doesn't matter what brake you put in front of it, you're going to get crushed. It was going to happen just because of the alliances and the promises that were put in motion and the arrogance and hubris of politicians, which is something we continue to see to this very day. I mean, why is there a war in Ukraine? What are we fighting about? Why are they fighting? Okay, Putin, what do you want? Tell us what you want. Ukraine, what do you want? Well, Ukraine obviously wants people out of the country. They want reparations, but, they're not going to get that. So, I mean, but where are the peace negotiations? There's no peace negotiations. And, I'm not a fan of the argument that people make all the time because I've been in the so-called military-industrial complex. It's not what people make it out to be. But I'm not a fan of the, it's all about, making money. But in this case, there's a lot of money being made in this war. And a lot of political game being made. I mean, no one's talking about Joe Biden's criminal conduct. And now we're busy talking about his mental competence. So that's a whole other story. But he successfully diverted this story for 3 years by, fueling a war in Ukraine since 2022. It's sad. People are dying.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, bud. I'm in complete agreement. But at the end of the day, what a wonderful world we live in. Hey, it's
crazy.
I don't know. It's currently 2024 for us, but it feels very much like 1924 all over again.
Yeah, except 1924, he only had to worry about yellow journalism, not social media. It's a big difference there.
Yeah. But I must say that all the countries in the world that are going to feel this the most are actually the Western ones. And I live in retard so I'm fine, mate. No one going to do shit. Yeah, I mean, can't even keep the lights on. So but countries like Europe and America, man, you still got some headaches coming.
Well, we're witnessing the collapse of Western civilization. That's as simple as that. I mean, this utter nonsense that's going on. I mean, Leah Thomas allowed to participate in women's college athletics and claims that person's a champion. It's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. We had an entire federal law passed, Title IX in the U.S. Code, that protects women's sports and ensures that public schools have to spend money on girls' sports, not just boys' sports, which created a whole lengthy positive series of outcomes, including improved confidence and capacity and ability to lead and be teammates and teamwork for women entering the workforce and in politics and in life and in the military. Great benefits for society, not to mention financial careers for female athletes, all being undermined by a political narrative which is bizarre, to say the very least.
Yes, I would agree entirely. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens everywhere, but for me personally, I ain't going anywhere. I am just going to sit tight and watch the world burn from Retardistan directly.
Well, I did watch that movie 2012, and when the oceans swept over the whole planet, somehow miraculously they missed South Africa, and that's where the ships landed, was South Africa at the end.
So have you actually ever seen there's this projection that shows what would happen if the world actually went to nuclear war and all the bombs dropped everywhere and which parts of the world would actually be spared? You seen it?
No, I would hope it'd be Antarctica.
It is one of the places that are spared, but South Africa is also one of the countries spared. I'm very pleased to note.
Well, I'll be moving to Argentina or Chile if that happens. Assuming I survive the nuclear conflagration. Oh my goodness.
Oh, also watched something the other day that actually says interesting thing about modern bombs, so that when they drop, they don't actually carry a lot of the radiation that they used to. Apparently, the hydrogen bomb now is radiation free. The way they've been designed, everybody still thinks that they're stuck on like 1945 technology, and they're not.
Well, I was unaware of that. I am aware of small modular reactors and how they're far safer than existing graphite-based and other-based nuclear reactors that we're relying on 60 and 70-year-old technology for. We should be employing small modular reactors all over the world in places where people can safeguard them for our electricity. But instead, we are, as your electricity minister, Kochisenso Ramakopa, the electric slide minister, is now, just like his predecessor, Andy Reuter, all in on solar panels and wind. That's not going to give you base load, brother. Not going to give you base load.
But it's not going to give you base load, but they're all getting funded, bud.
Yep.
So they're all getting a lot of like European funding to say, go green and all that stuff. And then you're like, okay, cool. We go green. And then what happens to our coal? Oh, wait, the guy's funding us to go green. I'm like, we'll buy you coal because you don't now you don't need it.
Yeah, U.S. coal production is dramatically down, but our grid is becoming highly unreliable. We've seen this in Texas, where they're overly dependent on wind transmission now instead of coal-fired power plants, or even better, natural gas. We have more natural gas you can shake a stick at, and it's funny, have you noticed this, Byron? The dishonest behavior of the media. Well, that's not a surprise, but specifically, you used to see the weather charts, like in the newspaper when they're colored, and you go on the website or you watch the news, and the temperatures in the 70s, so what, we're talking about 12, 15, 18 degrees Celsius. Those are supposed to be like kind of green. That's like a perfect zone for humans, But now, when it's in the 70s, they put these dark red and yellow and like, oh, the world is on fire. And, excuse me, those are actually perfectly agreeable temperatures. They're just misleading people every single day. It's sad to see this. In the 1970s, when I was a kid, all the major news magazines and maybe, the coming ice age, it's just around the corner. And now the planet's on fire. Make up your mind. How about you just tell the truth and stop cooking the data, UK scientist? Just saying.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That would be great. But unfortunately, if we stop cooking the data to say something that we wanted it to say, then we'd actually have to release a lot of the power that it gives us. Because let's face it, the green agenda has nothing to do with frying the planet and everything to do with being able to stop you buying that property that I want you to. A good example of that is how come Obama keeps going on and on and on about, rising oceans and how, all of the coastlines are going to be swept away. And then the last time he bought a house, it was like prime real estate on a coast by a beach.
In Newport. Exactly. Let me bring a little bit in from the chat here. So Slippery Pickle says the flat earther germ head on thinks nuclear weapons are fake news. He thinks Nagasaki is a hoax. I've been to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's not a hoax, folks. It was real. And the Devet Martens, wow, look at this. You get the bonus points today. He mentions the Thucydides trap. I love Thucydides. Of course, that's one of the things at the War College that we focused on and taught Thucydides, along with the Arthur Shastra, the Indian strategic narrative. But the Thucydides trap is fascinating. But from Thucydides, my favorite part of Thucydides is the Melian dialogue. The strong will do what they want, while the weak will suffer what they must. And that's the real world. The Melian dialogue is a perfect description of the world. The strong will do what they want, and the weak will suffer what they must.
I agree entirely. So that whole thing with what Slippery Pickle said there with Germ saying the nuclear weapons don't exist and blah 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 blah. I've also been to the Holocaust Museum in Hiroshima, and there's a lot of interesting things there, which I'd love to know where they came from. I suppose Germ would say they're fake news, maybe.
So I guess the Geiger counters there are just naturally the radiation just naturally higher there.
Must be. And I've seen the actual original footage of them dropping the bomb in 1945, and even the pilot basically shitting himself because he's like, well, the bomb's not actually, we weren't told the bomb would do this.
Yeah. No, they weren't told it was going to be that extensive a damage. The Enola Gay, that was named after his mom, the pilot of that plane. Yeah, all that crew finally passed away. The last one, I think, passed away a couple years ago. Finally, yep.
Yeah,
but for quite a while.
So you actually hear it when in his voice there's a high degree of panic where he's like, I don't know what's just gone on, but I was just told it was a bog standard bomb, and now his plane's basically almost getting blown out the sky, and he's
they weren't sure they were going to make it out of there. I mean, it was yikes. Well, it's unfortunate that those things had to happen, but I mean, I get the calculus that Truman went through. I mean, the projections were 1 million casualties, and that's something else. The Japanese were fanatical. I mean, and the lesson we learned was, when we went to Okinawa, the Okinawans, rather than just, surrender, threw themselves off of cliffs because they were indoctrinated with this nonsense about Americans, what would happen to them. Fanatical. I mean, civilians, you talk about suicide bombers, in Lebanon or in Israel. I mean, that's nothing compared to what was happening in Okinawa. So many unnecessary people died in Okinawa. What a horrible situation. War, I tell you, as a soldier, it's the last thing we want to see. We are here to deter miscreants from misbehaving. Hopefully it works, but it doesn't always work. But the problem with armed forces and police is that politicians, civilians have control of them and can misuse them. And that's the scary part.
No, I would agree entirely. Unfortunately, that's always the case. And if you look at, I don't know if did you see the news article that came out about the MMC in Gauteng that was directly responsible, I think, for saying like 1,600 or something deaths in South Africa in the last term because of some bullshit she has done in psychiatric hospitals. It's like, yes, your pet little project sometimes may sound like a good idea, but unfortunately, it does lead to not very good outcomes for some.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Estina situation. I thought it was 114 people or 141 who died, something like that.
Thank you for fact checking me. That's much.
No, not fact checking. I reported on yesterday. I'm recalling that was the case. Yeah, they're debating about whether they're going to prosecute these people. Well, I'm more curious. The prosecution, if it's appropriate, fine. But I'm more curious about why they all floated them into non-government organizations. Was it to save money? Was it because people got money under the table? What was going on there? That's the real question for me, and I don't think that's been satisfactorily answered at this stage. Maybe it will be at some point.
I agree. It's all difficult old environment, isn't it? It's nice to play politics with other people's lives.
Well, speaking of playing politics with other people's lives, we've got two examples here recently. Let's talk about France and the UK. France, we can talk about briefly. UK, you can talk more authoritatively about, I imagine. But France, the leftists teamed up to keep the rightist out of government, and it worked. But then it didn't work particularly well because they didn't get majorities either. But they can team up in a government of national horror, and the leftists can run France. But they're going to have to work together, and they don't like each other. But Macron is the big loser. His party went from 250 seats down to 153 or something like that, or something. It was a ridiculously a huge loss for them. So that was France. Were you watching the French election, or were you like, who cares?
Yeah, Ramon and I both watched it. It was very enlightening. I don't know how else to describe it apart from enlightening. I just think it's really curious to see how the entire election went, because it did appear like there was a bit of a right-wing wave. If you look every part of the country that wasn't in Paris, everybody liked Le Pen. And yes, I think it's very curious how the hard left, and I don't just mean the left or even center left, I mean the hard left, the communist left, subverted the will of the electorate basically to hold power. Now, I'm assured frequently that never happens, that, it's the right parties that are the most tyrannical, that refuse to give up power. But it's amazing how that never seems to actually be the case when the elections occur.
Well, I wasn't at all surprised. This isn't the first time that the left has ganged up. This is the most spectacular, but in the past they've done something. In this case, they colluded by, and the way they did this is kind of the very different from what happened in the UK. Rather than having multiple parties, candidates compete in one district, what they did is the left got together and said, okay, we'll take our less popular candidate out so he doesn't take 15% of the vote, so we can push those people to vote for your candidate. That's what they did. Whereas in the UK, the Reform Party got 4 million votes, but just 5 seats in Parliament. They got half as many votes as the party that got 400 plus seats in Parliament. But that's because the vote was split and it's first past the post. So the French colluded in that way. But the interesting thing about the French elections for me is that if you look at where the Le Pen's party, the National Front, or I can't think of the name off the top of my head, where they're the strongest, it's in the Côte d'Azur, which of course is North Africa. Southern France is North Africa. If you've ever been to Southern France, you might as well be in Algiers, Tunis, or Marrakesh, because it's North Africa. The number of French that live there are greatly diminished because of the mass immigration, and that has created a backlash over the past 4 or 5 decades. And that's why Le Pen's National Front is so powerful down there, because people are just frustrated by it. In other places, they're not nearly as strong. But in the UK, we saw the Reform Party get 4 million votes and 5 seats in Parliament, including Nigel Farage. But the Conservatives got, 6.8 million or something like that. The leftists, the Socialists, the Labour Party didn't really gain anything. Starmer actually barely won his constituency. He was almost beat by that South African ANC communist. Andrew Feinstein almost beat him. Did you see that?
I did see that. What's your view of the elections in the UK? Your personal views. Do you think it's going to be good or bad? I know what my views are, but I want to hear yours.
Well, the UK is in the shitter no matter what happened here. I mean, the Tories are a disgrace to conservatism. They're nothing but, bureaucrats and leftists. I mean, they're not really conservatives. They've destroyed the UK with this uncontrolled migration into the country, most of which has been a net loss, not a benefit for the UK. Their laws, their policy, their handouts, it's all a disaster. So I don't have much hope for the UK doing anything other than treading water. And I'm very concerned about which direction Starmer goes now, because he seems to think he has a mandate. But he got 35% of the vote. 35% of the vote.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Exactly. Jeremy Corbyn, who, by the way, led Labour to losses in the Midlands that they never lost. They lost constituencies in the last election under Jeremy Corbyn that they had never, ever lost. Since these constituencies were created in the 1920s and 30s, every single election they had gone Labour until Boris Johnson, and they won those. And then it's all gone now. It's all gone. I think the problem here is that a lot of people moan about the U.S. and our electoral system, the Electoral College. This is a perfect example.
First past the post is a problem, yeah.
Yeah, this is a...
Because they've got 400 and some seats, but they actually only got like 37% of the actual vote. 35. So they've got a landslide, but they didn't even get 50% of the vote. But
they barely got a third of the vote, and they claim and now they'll act as if they have a mandate. They don't have a mandate. This is not a strong government, in my view. And
so slippery as pickle, says Byron. If Charles doesn't like the decision, he'll reverse it, like with Liz Truss lady. No, you see, that's the problem. That Liz Truss wasn't removed by Charles. No. Liz Truss was basically removed by globalists who said that she was impacting the global order, and how they knew that she was impacting the global order is because there was a run on the bond markets and loads of people sold stuff off and the pound crashed. So they're saying that she wiped out a lot of the value of the shares, and obviously she resigned. But Charles himself, as an actual king, has no such powers to remove anybody. Those powers haven't actually been used since Victoria. Queen Victoria tried to use some powers in the 18th, whatever, and they nearly had a riot. And ever since then, the monarchs have only been figureheads, because constitutionally they have the powers, but there's an unwritten law, what we call in the UK and in British law, a convention. There's a convention that she'll never use them, and they don't.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, the Queen is a figurehead when it comes to political power in the UK, and has been for some time. There's only a few countries in the world where monarchies actually exercise real legitimate political power. Morocco is one example. Eswatini is another. Well, there aren't a lot of those countries around the world these days. Constitutional monarchies, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they're monarchies. Netherlands, they're figureheads by and large. They don't really have any control over their governments. They do appointments. I know the king, swears in the prime minister or something like that, but that doesn't. That's no real power. That's not decided. The political party decides.
But it's ceremonial, so they open the parliament. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah,
so they open parliament and then basically say you're invested with my power to do my forms of governance and my things. But it's tradition, it's ritual, but it's nothing more than that. If it didn't happen tomorrow, nothing would change.
Yeah, it's ritual. I think that's a good description for it. Yep. So, I mean, you're the people. Nobody voted for Rishi.
Actually thinks that the power's conferred by the king.
No one picked Rishi Sunak to be the prime minister. That was the Tories that did that, and they've collapsed. What stupidity! I mean, this guy. I mean, was he in office to destroy the Tories? Was that his purpose? I mean, if he's going to call an election, why not October, November?
Yes, he was there, and I don't think he wanted to power. I think he had got hufful of it. I think he had just got fed up with it, and it was easy to collapse the elections and then just sit back and say, "Well, they didn't want me, so I'm resigning from politics." And he did. He resigned from politics. So, yeah, I don't think he wanted to be there anymore. But
well, I mean, what
do you do? Do you admit it?
Well, I think he wanted to go back to the Channel Islands with his $750 million tax-free income. He just, stay back there.
America, actually. Apparently, that's where they're
great.
Back to.
Stop sending
your
us.
Homeland.
Stop sending us your Detrius, UK. We're tired of it. Send us your best and brightest, not your losers. You give us what's his name? What's that clown's name? The redheaded Nazi wearing married to the D-list actress. What's his name? I don't know. The royal family.
You mean Prince Harry?
Oh, Harry, is that it? Yeah, Harry, yeah. Okay, I can't remember. That's how much I pay attention to
Harry Winchester is his full name.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. By the way, Ludwig Schur mentioned the Sultan of Brunei and Saudi Arabia. Two good examples of where monarchies actually have power. So, but the Sultan isn't really a monarch; he's more of an emperor. So, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I know another place where the king has power.
Where's that?
It's in China. Xi Jinping.
You mean the
president? The emperor, the actual full-on emperor of China. I mean, he calls himself president, but we all know he's the emperor.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say that the Tsar of Russia is, of course, Putin by the same token.
I see nothing wrong with that. All hail the Tsar of Russia. What can I say?
All hail the Tsar of Russia. Oh, good Lord. Nope, I'll pass on that one. Hey, folks, you're listening to not the Common Sense Conservatives. That was my radio show last night. You're listening to the Braai Brus on Chris Wyatt Africa with Byron Shepherd in Chapiro, and I'm here in central Pennsylvania. And we're talking about, at the moment, British politics, which I think is interesting. I remember my first physical time in the UK was 1992. I took a trip there, took my car across the channel on the ferry, and I was there when they were closing all the collieries down, and the UK was shutting down their coal industry. It was a very difficult time, and John Useless Major was the prime minister. And I mentioned John Major, and most people don't even know who I'm talking about. Even in the UK, 30 years later, I say John Major, like, who? That's because he had to follow Margaret Thatcher. That's a tough act to follow.
It was a tough act to follow, and he didn't really do it very well, did he? Because he crashed and burned everywhere. So,
yep. So Vilma said he served till 87. Is she talking about Major? Did he actually last 5 years? I don't even remember that. No, not 87. She's not talking about him because it was in the 90s. Who's 87? Who served till 87? Who's she talking about that? I'm not sure. Anyway, but I miss Maggie Thatcher. Boy, there was clarity when she was prime minister.
Long time ago, my friend. Long time ago.
Yeah, but I lived
a lot of people are now claiming that everything that we are seeing in terms of the collapse of Britain is actually Margaret Thatcher's fault.
Yeah, well, we constantly get the whole argument that the reason the U.S. government doesn't have money is because George Bush's tax cuts, because of Ronald Reagan's tax cuts. But the U.S. government was spending 1/4 of the money 25 years ago that's spending today. The U.S. government has got more than enough money. They just squander it. So it's not a consequence of tax cuts. Those tax cuts grow our economy and created tens of millions of jobs and made many people much wealthier and raised the average family's income and net worth. But, never mind the inconvenient facts like that. They just don't like to do that. The Lotus Eaters.
Anyway, bud, I think it's been an hour now with us talking Braai Brus stuff, also known as rubbish. And yes,
I think we'll wrap it up here today then, probably, if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, everybody who has tuned in to join and listen to us talk about, everything, actually. I don't think there was any real one specific topic. We covered news from South Africa to the United States of shitster to the shithole that is known as the United Kingdom. And all I can say is thank God I live in South Africa.
But we even talked about Japan. I forgot about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And Russia, and China, North Korea. Yes, we did the world tour today.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Byron, thanks for joining me again today for the Braai Brus and sharing your thoughts and insights into just how screwed up our world is.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on.
All right, folks, I'll let Byron drop off and then I'll close it up here. Okay.
Thanks very much, man. Take it easy.
Cheers. All right, folks, that was Braai Brus with Byron Shepherd. Thanks for joining us once again. And, we went a little shorter today than we usually do, which was fine. I think we covered all the topics we wanted to cover there. I'm getting interviewed tomorrow in a different program, but I will be doing my news tomorrow. But the impact of that is I won't be able to cover the Griquas game in the early morning because I have to be on air around the same time. I have to double check. So thanks you all, to everyone for for being here. Appreciate it. I've got a couple videos coming out. Look forward to those and have a lovely day. Take care of yourselves. It's actually not 1,000 degrees here in Pennsylvania today. The temperature is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit cooler, and I'll probably go cut my lawn this afternoon. So I'm not looking forward to that. All right, y'all take care. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, and cheers. We'll catch you next time. There we go. There it is.